All right, thanks for staying with us. You're watching Direct, and we're direct to some really, really big issues on this program. So we're having a spirited debate with Shirley Richards, immediate past president of the Jamaica Society, or the Lawyers Christian Fellowship, and Lloyd D'Agular. We're now joined by Javed Jaghai. He is the gay man who, for whom the AIDS Free World, that's a US-based lobby group, has filed a motion challenging the constitutionality of Jamaica's anti-sodomy law. Now, essentially the argument is that the Charter of Fundamental Human Rights, which was passed in 2011, codifies the right to privacy. Now, that, of course, replaces Chapter 3, or is the new Chapter 3 in the Constitution, essentially rights and fundamental freedoms. That codifies the right to privacy. And now AIDS Free World, on behalf of Javed Jaghai, is arguing that it can't be that the Constitution codifies the right to privacy, but then also discriminates or criminalizes the act of buggery between two men in the privacy of their homes. We're now joined by Javed Jaghai to go, well, not going to discuss the matter because it's sub judice. We're going to discuss broadly the issues of homosexuality and what the gay lobby wants. All right, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Certainly, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's move very quickly in this segment. What exactly, why did you challenge? Why this challenge on behalf of yourself by AIDS Free World?
Well, a number of Jamaicans have been adversely affected by the very hostile cultural environment, but I was particularly directly affected by it last year when I was evicted from my home because my landlord surmised that I was gay, which I am, and proceeded to claim that it therefore meant that it was likely that I would engage in illegal acts on the premises, and so she felt justified in evicting me unless I was willing to accept therapy with her to change my sexual orientation. So obviously that wasn't a viable option, and so I chose to leave. But it really hit me in that moment just how the Buggery law legitimizes and allows for the policing of gay men's bodies, of gay men's lives. It invites the public into our homes to then be adjudicators of what is moral and what is immoral and what is legal and what is legal, despite the fact that as Jamaican citizens, we have guaranteed right to privacy of the home, and it is my firm belief that the Buggery law in its current iteration, which criminalizes consensual intimacy between adults in private, is a violation of that right.
All right, do you think that, for example, I raised this issue with Lloyd D'Agular. So if two persons in their homes want to carry on incest to adults, do you think that that should be also allowed because there is right to privacy?
Explain to me how that comparison is germane to the conversation, and I'll venture a guess. I'll venture a response.
Right, because there is the law as it stands now criminalizes incest. It also criminalizes buggery.
Right.
Both of them are in the privacy of their own persons who own homes. What's the difference between the two then?
Well, I think we can approach the question by discussing why it is that those two things are criminalized in the first place. All right? Homosexuality, right, the Buggery law is a relic from a colonial period during which non-procreative sex was prescribed in general. I don't think that's the reason for which incest was prescribed. Furthermore, in its current form, the Buggery law primarily serves to demean and denigrate the lives and loving relationships of gay Jamaicans. I do not think that is the reason for which the incest is criminalized, and I do not think that answering that question will advance our understanding of this particular issue.
Do you think that the fundamental issue is, Javed, do you think that the state has the right to legislate on issues of sexuality, on any issue of sexuality? Be it incest, buggery, whatever.
Perhaps, but there needs to be sufficient justification. So you need to tell me why it is that you are willing, or why you feel justified in actively violating, dismissing my constitutional fundamental rights in pursuit of some larger objective. I do not feel that in this particular case that there is sufficient justification.
You're confident about this case? That's the last thing I'm going to ask you about this particular case.
I'm confident in the democratic process. I'm confident in the principle of seeking redress when citizens like myself feel as though constitutional rights are being abridged. I think it's very encouraging for Jamaicans to use this moment to recognize that we have fundamental rights that cannot be summarily dismissed or violated on the whims of individuals or on the whims of some tyrannical majority. So if it is that an individual feels like their rights are being violated, it is their duty to seek redress. And in this case, the court is a particularly suitable means of seeking that redress. It's not just about me. I think we're losing an understanding of the value of this process by limiting it to, oh, you are seeking, the right to sexual activity in your household. No, this is about fundamental rights. This is about constitutional rights. I'm seeking the right to be respected and recognized as a Jamaican citizen with a right to all the rights outlined in the Constitution.
So, if, for example, you were to be successful on this matter of the Buggery law, challenging and perhaps having the court strike it down, is the next step having same-sex unions in Jamaica? Would that be the next step for the gay lobby?
First of all, the case that is in the court right now is not asking the court to strike down the law. Currently, there is no provision in the Sexual Offences Act to criminalize anal rape or non-consensual anal intimacy. So therefore, the Buggery law does serve a useful purpose. What we are asking for is for a declaration from the court to say that when this law is interpreted, it is interpreted to exclude consensual intimacy between adults in private. And I think that's a key distinction that the media isn't working very hard to make for some strange reason, but I think it's important for us to do that here. Secondly,
what I'm getting at is, what's the end game for the gay lobby here, Javed?
What's the end game for the gay lobby?
Yes.
Let me first clarify that this gay lobby that you speak of, you refer to it as a homosexual lobby beforehand, is also interested in women's rights. We're also interested in the rights of children and rampant sexual abuse. We're also interested in classism, healthcare access to the poor. We're interested in our ineffective and deficient education system that penalizes children from homes where Jamaican Creole is a first language. We are not unidimensional people, and we do not have singular objectives. What purpose would liberation for gay Jamaicans serve if we still have to live in a stagnant society that cannot promise a successful future for Jamaican children? So we are not individuals who are simply seeking, legitimization for our identities. It's my interest in this case, my interest in advocacy fits into a broader narrative of defending and fighting for the rights of marginalized groups in Jamaica.
Marginalized groups. All right. So you do not foresee down the road challenging or fighting for same-sex unions as well, as what, for example, happened with the U.S. Supreme Court today. Pretty much denying or striking down a law denying federal benefits to gay couples. You wouldn't want that to happen in Jamaica too?
Perhaps there will come a time when gay Jamaicans decide that is a legitimate objective, but that is not our end game, I don't think, and that is certainly not my end game. My end game is this. I want to live in a Jamaica where every child, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their parents' education background, regardless of their gender identity or expression, feels wanted and loved. I want to live in a Jamaica where we can recognize that we build stronger, more resilient, more stable communities when we respect each other, when we celebrate diversity of perspectives and opinions. I want to live in a Jamaica where we look beyond labels and stereotypes and recognize the humanity of individuals. Marriage? Sure, that might be important because gay relationships do deserve to be recognized, do deserve to be given the...
So you'd want that to happen in Jamaica, gay unions?
There may be a time when that is something that we're going to pursue because, as it stands, homosexual unions, the loving relationships of gay individuals are not respected, are not recognized, and so there are a number of legal issues or a number of legal rights that heterosexuals take for granted that we can't have. But that is not the end game. The end game is a more equitable, more just, more free Jamaica where individuals are respected merely for the fact that they are humans.
One of the concerns, Javed, especially for the church community, and also for persons who are not necessarily denominational, is that if you do this, there are certain moral vanguards in the society. And, for example, Shirley Richards talked about it, for example, that if you remove the Buggery law, it's such a critical threshold, moral threshold. It holds back, it puts up a stop sign to certain other issues. That there's a certain moral fiber in society that cannot be allowed under no circumstances to be removed.
Okay.
One of the concerns of the church is that the gay lobby seeks to assert itself, almost as if it wants to force its own way on the rest of the population. What's your response to that?
Okay. I think we need to make it clear that the church groups you speak of, the anti-equality church groups you speak of, do not speak for all Jamaican Christians, and certainly do not speak for all Jamaicans. My mother, for example, is a devout Christian, and she loves me dearly. She loves me not in spite of my sexuality, she loves me because of who I am. Frankly, my parents are worried sick that an avowed Christian may try to harm me in God's name because of who I am. All right, so let's just break down this.
Before you go on, your parents, you said you are devout Christians.
My mother.
Your mother. Does she ever say to you that the Bible says that what you're doing is absolutely wrong and should be stopped?
When I first came out to my mother a few years ago, that was her immediate response, because quite frankly, we are socialized in a culture which teaches parents, teaches even Christian parents, that they must reject their children, even if that means throwing them out onto the street once they recognize that they are gay. And it is a problem because we understand homosexuality as a behavior and not as an identity. So when we think of gay people, we don't think of people who work, who pay taxes, who have families, who support families. We think of people who have sex all the time in taboo ways that everybody else is doing, but we latch onto this notion that, oh, they are doing taboo sex, and that's all we fixate on. My mother, through engaging with me, came to recognize that I'm a complex human being with complex emotions, with complex needs, and through engaging with me, she learned to work through her prejudices and to love her child like every Jamaican parent should. My father, for example, is my biggest supporter. That he sent me a text just on the way here, actually, telling me that he loves me, and that sometimes when you want something, when you believe strongly in something, even when others don't understand, or even when there's grave opposition, he says, Javed, when we have major achievements in the world, it's usually because people fight and people push even when there's no hope. That's the kind of parent.
So your mother stopped telling you that, is it that she stopped telling you that what you're doing is totally rejected by the Bible?
Well, yes, because they recognize that certainly the Bible cannot be dictated to individuals and to be fed to individuals as the only basis for morality. Why can't morality be love and inclusion and tolerance? I would think that many Christians would agree that those are central values to Christianity. I do recognize, however, that there are Jamaicans who believe that the only way that they can make accommodation for homosexuals in their moral framework is if we are repentant and if we are insecure. The moment we start to become confident and demand visibility and demand recognition as human beings and as citizens, all of a sudden there's this huge pushback and the Christians pull a victim card.
I'm out of time. So you're certainly, you have no problems being homosexual. You're proud to be homosexual, you're saying?
Why would I have a problem? Look at me. Do I look like a deformed, deficient, inferior human being?
So you have no problem being homosexual?
Why would anyone have a problem with being gay?
There are some homosexuals who know it to be wrong based on the Bible.
Who think it is wrong because of indoctrination with a very limited construct of what human sexuality
based on the Bible, who know it's wrong, and so they so they're penitent.
But there are gay Christians too. Go to Jamaican churches, there are tons of gay Christians. So to pretend as if there's this distinction between secular, sinless, sinful, godless people and Christians, it's a completely false dichotomy. There are gay Christians struggling with their sexualities because individuals like Shirley Richards insist on telling them that they are biologically...
You're a Christian too?
I'm not a Christian, no.
Okay. One last word, Javed. What would you say to the government now? Portia Simsimiller said that she would try to have a look at the Buggery law. What would you say to the government now?
I would hope that the government develops a backbone and stands up for what is right, even in the face of aggressive, hysterical, fear-mongering opposition. I think it is time we come to recognize that gay Jamaicans have always been, will always be, and instead of dismissing us as miscreants and pedophiles and predators, we need to acknowledge the contributions gay Jamaicans have made and continue to make and respect our right to exist.
All right, thanks very much, Javed Jaghai. Really appreciate you coming in to talk with us right here on Direct. We let all views contend on this program, and as we said, we talk about big issues, and one of the controversial issues, one of the lightning rods of controversy has been this matter of homosexuality and the Buggery law, which is now in the courts. When we come out next week, we talk about another issue of current and topical interest to you. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Garfield Burford. The conversation continues online, direct at CVMTV.com. You can also visit our Direct group on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter as well. On behalf of the entire team, good night.